Okay, another type of animation is the timeliner animation. So critical to this was the fact that we have these search sets available to us. So we have a way of logically grouping all of these objects, and it can be selected on here. Now, assuming that they were all being constructed at the same time, all the glazed windows are going in at the same time, all the cast in place, we can create an animation from that. If the sequence was different, then you just create like subdivisions of the search sets. So you might create a search set for the slabs that are being built in week 8, and another search set for the ones that are being built in week 9, and another one for the ones that are being the slabs that are being poured in week 10. You have to logically arrange the groupings so that they represent the construction sequence. So how do I go about creating this is the option called the timeliner. Right. So on this timeliner, you notice that I have not much information, nothing under tasks, data sources, configure. I've got some settings as to what objects being constructed should be coloured. The green, anything being demolished should be red, anything that's temporary, like maybe a barrier of some sort, is yellow. And simulate, I've got nothing in here at all, right? No week of tasks. So my first thing is I need to tell it what my data sources are. So if under data sources I say add, I can use files from these different formats, the Primavera for or Microsoft Project. In this example, I've got the task set up in a Microsoft Project file, an MPX file, and I can find that file and bring it in. So what's critical here is that that file contains tasks with the same names as the search sets that are in our project. Now the way that I match this up is that I have like a key field in my data set here. In this case, it's a field called text 10 that has a listing of all of the here we go, test 10, that has a listing of all of the phased construction using the same names as these selection sets. So when I do that, I've actually kind of attached that data. I've attached it, it's linked, because it's linked so that you can change it at any time you want in the project file and have it update here. So under my timeliner, if I go in, I've got my data source now defined, right? But I don't have the tasks yet in my project. So what I need to do is I need to, up here is like right click and say build this task hierarchy. But just before I do that, I'm showing you the information is not here. If I go to rules, I want to point out that you've got options on how you make that connection when it does this kind of handshake. Map timeliner tasks from the column name, the one that we picked called text 10, to selection sets with the same name. Right, so that's what I want to do. So that is the one that I have selected as the apply rules. Okay, now on my timeliner, I want to say under the data sources here, rebuild me this hierarchy of tasks. So as soon as I do that, if I go back to my tasks folder, if it loaded in the data, you see it's got the data with the names of the selection sets grouped here. I think I can we'll type for space, but I think you can see it. Under the here, you actually see, if I zoom out a bit, it's got the Gantt chart showing me the display of dates, the planned dates. And so the last thing in here that I want to do is I'm going to try and move this down a bit so you can see it a bit more. This is the view that I happen to be looking at. Oh, I need to check one more thing. I think I've done this several times and I've done it wrong every time. Let me under data source, no, under tasks. So under rules. No, I think we'll override current selection. Apply the rules. So down here under timeliner, if I now say, close this down a bit. So it's showing me like the first week, but now if I hit the play, there's my sequence of construction. So now it actually made an animation for me from the timeliner that I'll be able to export. So if let me change the view here a little bit just so I can see this maybe from the top, and maybe what I want to do is turn off the third person here. But now from my timeliner I've got the option of going to the beginning and then hitting on the play button just to verify what I'm seeing. And if I like what I see and it's going to be useful to have that, I can say output the animation, and it's got these choices. Current animation if I was working in something, timeliner simulation, which is what I'm interested in, or the current animation scene. Remember, I could go to my viewpoints and change the animation scene, so I'm going to pick on that one. The other options in here are that you can, presenter means that it'll use the materials and lighting and things assigned from presenter, which I haven't shown yet, so I'm just going to leave this as OpenGL, and then under AVI, under output, I can do separate JPEG files or separate PNG files. Maybe you want to put them in a Flash animations, or an AVI file, which is a single file format, or a Windows bitmap, which would be separate BMP files. So what I'm going to do is I'd probably say let's change the frame rate to something like 12 frames per second. That will slow it down a little bit. Actually, maybe even 15, something like that. Under the options here, I can choose what compression I use. I'm just going to go with the default video one. You probably have to try different movies just to see what displays well on your screen. And then I'm going to save it out. Timeliner simulation. I'll call it Conference Center Example Timeliner. Save. And that's all there is to it, to save it out and get my sequence of animated building, or the consecutive construction sequences that I want to show for how my building is built. And it's done, right? So you think of the time. It really doesn't take a lot of time to produce an animation. I didn't choose the high quality option, but I'll show you that next.